agree with this comment. If you are at the point where your lease is ending and you're being evicted and you have nowhere to go, stay there until you have somewhere to go. Again, the process of then taking you to court to get an official eviction notice takes time, and you get to defend yourself of why you're still there. Staying in the property buys you more time with a roof over your head, because people should not be forced on the streets when they have nowhere to go from a perfectly good property. If it does get to court, the court will understand, but it does buy you time to find a place rather than going straight onto the streets. And the fact that landlords don't care if the tenant has nowhere to go and there's a complete lack of humanity is completely shocking to me.
Hey folks, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will be discussing you how any renter in Australia can live rent-free, and yes, there will be legal consequences for anyone who decides to overstay their lease. But anyway, this video, the one you saw here, was an example of how it validates one landlord's story. Take example for this guy. All right, so this Melbourne landlord have lost over $16,000 in rent and almost had his home repossessed by the bank after one of his tenants failed to pay the lease on his property for over 209 days. Wayne Xiang, the president of the Chinese President Chamber of Commerce, is one of hundreds of Australian property owners who have fallen victim to rogue renters. Oh, okay. Rogue renters. So the self-employed real estate agent is now sharing his experience to show how a minority of tenants are using unlawful tactics to get away with living in a leased property for months of rent-free and without punishment. Okay, that's quite astounding. Okay, so basically he just said he applied a notice to vacate, was issued on the 22nd of July last year. Well, with the rent 14 days in arrears, he said. 2 months on, the couple failed to leave the property and were weeks behind on rent payments. As a result, Mrs. Sang applied to have the case heard at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. The hearing took place in late October, 100 days after the last time the tenants paid Mr. Sang rent. Okay, so eventually both parties were able to come to an agreement on a payment plan. However, Mr. Sang hopes of receiving over 3 months worth of rent owed were short-lived when tenants didn't pay the first installments on its due date. So he's been sending a lot of emails and phone calls to VCAT for repossession immediately. And so therefore, VCAT is too overwhelmed, I tell you. I mean, he even talked to his broker and his bank, tried to lessen the financial blow. So the hearing was scheduled for December 16, with the tenants failing to show up, and the tribunal closing over the Christmas and New Year period. A second hearing to vacate the tenant wasn't held until January 22nd this year. So looks like today Mr. Sang is owed more than $16,490 in rent. I mean, he doubts like he will receive any cent back. So all the tenants have lost is their bond, basically. And plus, without knowing their new addresses, there's no way you can chase missing rent. And even if you know where they live, you have to apply through the magistrate's court to first survey their assets and then apply to seize their assets. Okay, so that's one legal possibility how a landlord could find a way to pay back lost rent. So my point to this is that anyone can live rent free by doing the most dodgiest way. So it's more like a drive away, no more to pay. So there are some dozens of cases involving this sort of manner. So having a rental for 400 days rent free. Well, that's pretty much quite astounding, I'll tell you, because at the moment, the VCAT is having a staggering 23,549 cases pending to be heard by a tribunal. Over 11,000 had been initiated and over 9,000 had been finalized. So basically, it's going to take a very long time for any landlord to evict a rogue tenant. And yes, I mean, like before any landlord can evict a tenant, you have to first give the notice, applied to the Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal. But if landlords live in other states, well, they're going to have to go through similar governing bodies. If the governing body made a possession order, purchase a warrant of possession from the organization and give warrant of possession to police, which police will use to evict the rogue tenants. So that's the 4 steps which a landlord has to follow in Victoria. So it can be similar to other states in Victoria, and guess what? It could be much worse for tenants if, let's say, a vast majority of renters goes on a rent strike. So strikers could face serious consequences. For a renter to not pay the rent and for them to avoid further legal complication notices, the landlord must be at fault. Increasing the rent is not categorized being a fault, okay? If a rent strike did go ahead, Mr. Masdumo flagged that the short-term results could be grim for vulnerable renters. There are some immediate fallout, such as eviction proceeding against participating tenants and political difficulties in securing alternative housing in a low vacancy rate market. Participating tenants may face legal consequences, straining relationship with landlords, and potential long-term implication for future rental opportunities. However, the long-term impacts of a strike, if there were enough people involved, could be helpful to renters. So the impact of a rental strike could extend the policy discussion, but immediate relief is not guaranteed, and outcomes may take time to materialize. So basically, if there's a lot of people going on a rent strike, therefore it could cause chaos in the administrative tribunal. I reckon that's what this man's it's saying. So basically, anyone in Australia can live rent free if they're suffering from, I don't know, difficulty of paying rent or couldn't find another place to stay. I mean, they can overstay their lease to a court appearance. So basically, that's how it is in Australia at the moment. But I think other states could be stricter, but who knows? But anyway, this is not my advice for anyone who's thinking about living beyond the lease, because honestly, this is just the tactics of any dodgy renter in Australia. So anyway, the choice is all yours. Anyway, I don't take any responsibility or what I published.